Hey everyone, how you doing? Welcome to Streamer's Haven. My name is Mr. Goodhand, and I am your host. This is my first YouTube video, and I just wanted to go ahead and get a text message. Recording woes number 1. Today we're going to be talking about key lights and why you need them for your stream. So what is a key light exactly? Well, a key light is quite simply that, a light for your camera. How many lights you have will determine what configuration that you put them in. Say for example, you have a single light, one light. In this scenario, you would place the light directly behind your camera facing your face, like I have. If you see right here, this is my light that I'm using. It is a very bright, and I apologize for potentially blinding some of you, 300 watt total setup. They are LED bulbs, 13 watts each. They are made by Philips, and they work pretty well in the regards of lighting here. And this is the only light that I have going right now. But because there's so much wattage, so much power coming through for this one light, it does a pretty good job at lighting me up. I actually have the exposure on this camera set to -6, which I will show you with some B-roll here. Just a quick disclaimer, these particular values are not going to be the same for you. These values will be determined based upon the room that you are in, and also the fact that you are going to have different lighting solutions available to you. You may have a window open, I don't know. So these settings may not necessarily work for you. However, some important things to note. The brightness level will determine how bright or dark an image is and should be kept around the middle. As you can see, my values for brightness is 136 and contrast is 134. The saturation will determine how much color is in the image. The default value is 128. If you like a little bit more saturation, you can add more saturation like I have here. I felt I had looked a little bit washed out with 128, which is the default value, so I put a little bit more here. Sharpness, don't set it too high. Don't get caught in that trap. Setting sharpness too high can cause like odd visual glitches on the corner and edges of your say glasses. They're particularly noticeable on glasses. And if I were to show you here what will happen when you put your sharpness too high, value of 150 to 180. Well, if you notice on my glasses, they look a little bit weird now, not quite natural. So you don't want that. So we're going to move that back down to 150. It's a little bit difficult to get it tuned in exactly to 150 when your sensitivity in your mouse is too high. Pro tip, keep your sensitivity at a reasonable level. Now, your white balance is determined by the lights that you use and the color of your walls. My lights, for example, are 5000 Kelvin Philips LED bulbs. So this value says 4850, but that's only because the walls influence the color temperature of the light. So that value will actually be adjusted based upon your walls, and you won't be able to exactly dial it in perfectly unless you have perfectly white walls. Your backlight composition, if you have a light, you don't need this. Compensation, not composition. Gain, ideally you want gain to be 0. If you can, get gain 0. Because gain adds a lot of visual artifacts to your face camera. For example, I can't really show you here because, well, it's gonna make it look really bad. But basically what you start to do is you start to do some weird things to it. And it just not washed out. That's because I had the exposure set right. But I've dialed it in to where I don't need any gain whatsoever. And so the quality of the video feed is the best that it could possibly be. Now we move over to the exposure settings here. We have the zoom. This should be set at 100. Focus should be set to 0 unless you have your camera pretty far away. And your exposure I have mine at -5 apparently, actually. So default is -5. If you have sufficient light, you can actually bring this lower. And the lower your exposure is to like say -6, the less the processor on the webcam will have to work. So it'll be less laggy and it'll look a little bit crisper. But the more light you have, the lower it can be. But if you have like no light at all, you'll have to crank this up to like -3, which is really bad and makes it really laggy. Because the sensor has to really work hard. And then the low light compensation, that needs to be off if you have good sufficient light. It just adds unnecessary processing at that point. Now I've shut off 2 of my lights, and I have only 100 watts on me now. As you can see, the difference is quite substantial. And it's not bad by any means, but it's not dialed in. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and go back to these settings here, and we're going to dial this in here. We're going to start first by upping the gain, because if we let's just, you know what, let's up the exposure first. Let's up the exposure to -4. I'm going to show you what happens. You guys see what's going on here? It suddenly became very laggy. It's much brighter. It's much closer to what it was, but it's much laggier now. So let's bring that back down to -5. We are back to nice and fluid movement here. What we have to do then is up the gain. Let's try 82. I'm seeing this as you guys are. See, now this is what I mean. Like, you can get away with 100 watts of light, but you'll have to add a decent amount of gain to it. And that gain adds a little bit of noise. If you can see in the darker areas a little bit that it's a little bit noisy now. And that's not ideal. Like right there, that's very noisy. Now if I were to take it up one level more, pardon me. I've got another light. And this is what would be simulating, say, a overhead light for your room. So now we really have to crank the gain up if we want to have a usable image. Now you can start to see this grain pretty obviously at this point. This particularly right here is pretty visible in the grain. This is what you end up with if you don't have the proper setup, the proper lighting for your camera. It starts to degrade in quality, and everything just starts to look like really not great. It's certainly usable, but it's nothing compared to how it started. Earlier in the video, I had mentioned that there was a few different types of lightings that you could do. Basically, the placement of the lights. In our case, I've demonstrated the single point light, the single key light. If you were to have more than one light, you would instead not center that light, but offset it 45 degrees to the right, and then you would have either another light to your left, again 45 degrees off from the camera, facing your face, so that you would be able to illuminate from both sides and really give you some more depth that you can't get with a single light. That is a little bit more expensive and more advanced. It requires a lot more room. Then there's the 3-point lighting system, or configuration would be a better word, where you would have a hair light. Now, this could be done with things like a ceiling light, or a fan, or some sort of like light on your ceiling. However, the best results come from a dedicated light that you can position just in the perfect place to give yourself like that really strong contrast from your background. And that's what you want. Armed with the knowledge you guys have from this video, you'll be able to make any webcam look good. All you really need is light. And positioning that light is key. The key light. So this is Streamer's Haven. This is a website blog that I designed to basically help out streamers get started into the field of streaming. I wrote written several articles for microphones, free games for streamers, the Keylight, which is what this video is based on, voice acting classes, advanced audio properties, Mother's Day specials, and a lot more. If you like this video and you want to learn how to support us, you can do so by becoming a Haven patron. To see everything you get as a patron of Streamers Haven, simply visit patreon.com/streamershaven. Alright guys, thanks for watching. If you want to see more, click the bell and subscribe. I hope to see you there. Mr. Goodhand signing out.